Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Isikoff, Yahoo's chief investigative correspondent, and this is Yahoo News Now. Ann Coulter is the author of the new book, In Trump We Trust, E Pluribus Awesome. Ann, as I've pointed out before, I actually believe you've had a real impact on this election. You were predicting Trump was going to win the Republican nomination when other pundits were laughing it off as preposterous. And you actually, after reading your last book and tweeting about it, Trump borrowed some of your language in his famous Mexican rapist speech. In fact, in many ways, you were the intellectual godmother of the Mexican rapist speech.
Thank you.
Do you agree?
Thank you. Thank you. Wasn't that a blockbuster speech?
Now, in your new book is a full-throated defense of just about everything Donald Trump has said in this campaign.
Surprisingly, it is, yes. And of him, which I did not think at first.
But this has to come at an awkward moment, given that almost everything Donald Trump has been saying for the past year now seems to be in doubt. For instance, Trump, for the past year, has been calling for the mass deportation of 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country. And just yesterday, after Trump met with Hispanic advisors, his new campaign manager, KELLYANNE Conway, was asked if Trump still supports mass deportation, and she said, to be determined. Are you worried that Donald Trump is walking away from everything he said about immigration over the past year?
Okay, viewers, this is another media lie. For one thing, Trump has never admitted, and I say God bless him for this, that it's only 11 million, because as you know from my book, no, it's probably 30, 40, 50 million, and he resists that in interviews. It's far more than that. Obviously, that's a lot to deport. And
but
from
you
the
want
beginning,
mass deportation.
Technically, what she said to be determined about was, will there be a deportation force? Look, if Trump builds the wall, blocks most Muslim immigration, I mean, we're letting in just masses. We are letting in more immigrants from Muslim countries than we do from all of the British Isles right now. It's crazy what we're doing. If he does that, and lets ICE do its job, oh my gosh, I'll think I've died and gone to heaven. Now, I think there will be some deportation.
So you're okay if there's not mass deportations. Illegal immigrants can stay in this country as long as they haven't committed crimes.
Only the media could
You're
make...
okay with that.
No.
You're not.
Well, look, when they come across them, I, again, let ICE do its job. But from the beginning, remember during the debates, there was that big thing about Trump's off-the-record interview with the editorial board of the New York Times, and Cruz was accusing him of being flexible on building a wall. He's not flexible on building a wall. The wall is going to be built. If nothing else, it's going to be a lot of jobs.
Flexible on deportations.
But precisely how it's done, I mean, this gets to my chapter, and you've read my book, my chapter on no policy specifics. The point with Trump is he's going in the direction we want to go in. There will be a wall. Exactly how many feet it is. I mean, it's like saying he's changing his policy, because remember when he'd get attacked by leaders in Mexico, and he'd say, okay, that's it, the wall's 10 feet higher. Okay, maybe it'll be 30 feet, not 40 feet. He's going in the right direction. Meanwhile, Hillary says she's going to fling open the borders, grant everyone amnesty, more than quadruple the number of Muslim refugees we bring in. So these are very different approaches. The precise details, I just think it's kind of a cheap way to attack somebody. FDR didn't know how a landing craft vehicle works. We knew the direction he was going in.
Last December, Trump called for a complete and total shutdown on Muslims entering the country until our country's representatives can figure out what's going on. Then by this summer, he changed that to say he's actually talking about banning immigrants from certain territories where there is terrorism. This is from Meet the Press in July. Let's listen.
I'm looking now at territories. People were so upset when I used the word Muslim. Oh, you can't use the word Muslim. Remember this. And I'm okay with that, because I'm talking territory instead of Muslim.
So which Trump do you trust? The one who said he wants a complete and total shutdown of Muslims coming in the country, or the one who says he only wants to ban some people from certain territories, not necessarily Muslims? Which one do you trust?
I think one is just clearer of how you pull it off. It's I understood him the first time and argued with people the first time. How do you do it? And I mean, all of these extensions of, well, is he going to keep King Abdullah out? No, that'll be the general rule, but there will be exceptions. How do you do it? You you ban people from specific countries. I'm not sure he'd let in Mohammed Atta and the hijackers on 9/11. He said they probably wouldn't be in the country, and a lot of them were coming from Germany.
But you make a point that it's about Muslims, and in his new iteration, he's not talking about Muslims, is he?
Well, it's how you do it. It's really such a minor detail. Yeah, this is how you would do it. My guess is Mohammed Atta would get a tough look too, even though he's coming from Germany. And it's perfectly
Trump gave a speech
and
last Thursday in North Carolina that got a lot of attention. Let's listen to that.
Sometimes, in the heat of debate and speaking on a multitude of issues, you don't choose the right words, or you say the wrong thing. I have done that. And believe it or not, I regret it.
Which words do you believe he regrets?
I don't know, but I want to point out, and I don't want to give you
no,
a...
but he
I'll
said
get back to that.
he
The reason I
regrets
like that he said
saying
this
things,
is
yeah.
that, unlike you, who are a journalist and report new and interesting stuff, the rest of your profession seems to think its job is to demand apologies from Republicans, never from Democrats. No, Obama will never be asked to apologize for something. Hillary will never be asked to apologize for something. So I'm glad he made a statement of the obvious in this funny way that made me laugh. Yeah, of course, everybody does. He makes a statement of the obvious, but it wasn't in the middle of one of these feeding frenzies, so I wouldn't want to get into that either.
Yeah, but which words do you think he's talking about?
Probably the nice things he said about the Clintons.
How about the cons?
I don't know, maybe. I mean, I think it was an important point to be made. There are two times I would say, look, he's not a politician. I think the point he was making was a serious point, a good point. It wouldn't be made by anyone else. So, I mean, he has to be both his own media and the candidate. And that was the Mexican judge point and the con point. Yes, the argument is you don't want the candidate making it, you want someone like me making it, you want people in the media.
Well, let's talk about that.
But that's why people won't let me on the media. Because I would make that.
You're right here,
Other
Ann.
than you.
And
but look, the con point, I wrote about this Democrat habit of using human shields to make their arguments back in Godless when they're sending out the Jersey girls. This is an important public policy after Orlando and San Bernardino and the Boston Marathon and 9/11 and a dozen other attacks here. Our Muslim immigration policy, this is a serious issue. And to send out a victim to wave our Constitution at us and tell us our Constitution requires us to admit Muslims? No, it doesn't.
after the cons appeared at the convention, you tweeted this. You know what this convention really needed? An angry Muslim with a thick accent like Fareed Zakaria. Aside from spelling Fareed Zakaria's name wrong, is there anything you regret about that tweet?
Oh, no. I love that tweet. Technically, I sent it out on the elliptical machine as I was watching the angry Muslim speak because it was like at 3 in the afternoon, so most people weren't going to see it. And maybe I don't know America anymore, but I do not think the women of America, the soccer moms, we are so concerned with, how women are treated, whether enough women are making partner at law firm in New York, and to have, this angry Muslim standing with his hijab-wearing wife saying nothing, haranguing us, telling us lies about our Constitution. What he should have been doing is waving Sharia law and telling Americans to read it instead of telling Trump to read the Constitution, because we're all going to be living under Sharia law if this guy has his way.
What? And then you also tweeted after that, what about the mother of an American hero? She stood submissively in a hijab by her husband's side. Is this the way to talk about the parents of somebody whose son lost their life fighting for this country?
This is the way to talk about someone haranguing us about an important public policy. If Democrats want to make that argument, send out somebody I can attack then. I say the same thing about
the fact
they're
that
going
their
to,
son
Yes, I
fought
respect
for
their
this
son for
country.
that. Of course, yes, he's an American hero. But okay, Democrats, send out Hillary Clinton to make that argument. Let her waive the Constitution. Let Tim Kaine waive the Constitution. Let John Kerry do it. What, are they going to send out an orphan whose parents have just been murdered in a horrible, auto accident to present their tax plan?
One of the issues that the Clinton campaign has been attacking Trump for is the idea that he might be a puppet of Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin. Now, in your book, you argue Americans shouldn't worry about what Putin does in places like Ukraine, where he is currently massing troops. Here's what you wrote. How many Americans wake up every night in a cold sweat in anguish about Ukraine? Even people afraid of global warming aren't worried about that. Ukraine was part of Russia for most of its history. It would be as if Putin sent fighter jets to force America to give Texas back to Mexico. Now, you do realize Ukraine is an independent, sovereign country.
Yes.
Okay, what's the comparison with
The comparison
Texas
is, look, we've had enough foreign wars. That is, as I say over and over in the book, people support Trump not because of his personality. Nobody says that. It's his issues. And one of them is these endless wars, being the policeman of the world. This wasn't Ronald Reagan. As you may recall, I was a huge fanatical supporter of the Iraq War. I did think it went well. I do blame
So you were wrong about that.
Well, I blame Obama for withdrawing every last troop, but let's leave that aside for a minute. Maybe I was wrong from the beginning and it was never going to work. Maybe it's all Obama's fault. Going forward, we went to war and it's a disaster now. America is sick of war right now. Enough of this. And right now, 20 years ago, we had 20 million manufacturing jobs. Now we're down to 11 million. We have a wide open southern border. On our list of concerns, I'm putting Putin going into Ukraine about number 520.
Right, so Russian aggression in Ukraine, its meddling in Syria to prop up Bashar Assad, its use of Iranian air bases to bomb Syria, that should not be of any concern to Americans.
I'm not saying not of any concern, but let's build the wall first. Let's renegotiate the trade deals. Give our military men a little bit of a break for a while. We've had enough war, and I think Trump has the popular position on that. It's certainly one I agree with. Enough with war right now. I mean, obviously, if something comes up, if we're attacked, yeah, we'll respond. But as I describe in the book, everyone has this idea of my party. Republicans seem to think they're being Reagan-esque by having an itchy trigger finger. Reagan didn't go to war. There weren't that many. There wasn't much actual shooting in what Reagan was doing.
What's your reaction to Paul Manafort's departure?
Hallelujah. And again, I will say, as I did at the convention to you, it's nothing personal with Paul Manafort. I have chapter 3 in my book is nothing but an attack on political consultants. They are protecting the territorial Republican Party. I want to protect the United States of America. And that's why you have all these hysterics on TV every night. You have the Hillary supporters who hate Trump on one side arguing with the never-Trumpers. Well, for all of Washington, this is existential for them. Their jobs are useless. They ran Jeb's campaign. They ran Rubio's campaign. And they were all blown out of the water with their clever little talking points and all the money they had been collecting.
Isn't Kellyanne Conway, the new campaign manager, a political consultant?
Well, he also brought in Steve Bannon. And look, some polling is probably okay. Steve Bannon's not a political consultant.
Well, you know Steve Bannon pretty well, no, don't you?
Reasonably well, not very well.
Him?
I think he's terrific, and he's been doing a great job at Breitbart. And oh my gosh, by being the one source for an alternative view of the man who just won more votes than any Republican in primary history. Breitbart.com gets like 22 million hits every week now. It just keeps growing, growing, growing. So I like Bannon. I like his instincts. Steve Miller, of course, is my true love. He's the one who's been writing these fantastic speeches for Trump. And you know they're good because the media won't show them.
You think it was a good idea for Bannon to throw one of his own reporters, Michelle Fields, over the bus after she correctly accused your friend Corey Lewandowski of accosting her?
You know, I hate attacking fellow Republicans, but that was silly. She was publicity seeking. He went like this to move her aside. Ah! But, coming from people who are, you know, lukewarm on Juanita Broderick and Bill Clinton violently raping her. I think grabbing a reporter's shoulder to move past her, i.e. do his job, stay with the candidate.
Look, when we last spoke during the Republican convention, this was a neck-and-neck race. Since then, Trump has consistently slumped in the polls. He's now behind double digits in most of the battleground states. What's gone wrong?
I got to tell you, I don't think Trump has been, and I have been critical of him, though I'm resisting doing it to you because I don't like when reporters ask us to attack our candidate, when you don't ask the same thing of what Hillary should apologize for. I have been critical of some things Trump has said. I'm not a zealot. It's constructive criticism. He's my candidate. In the last month, he hasn't said anything wrong. And it's just crazed, you know, inventions by the media. I mean, I think the attacks on Trump are absolutely unprecedented. We didn't live through, you know, Nixon or Goldwater, but I've read about that period. This is just unbelievable. It's been done to me partially through my whole career, where people will rip something you've said out of context, put some different interpretation on it. And it's always hard to go back and hear what was said originally once the media has been putting its own, superimposing its version on it. And I think some of that has happened, but I just got to tell people, watch Trump's speeches. You can find them online. The media won't show them to you because they're so good. I mean, after that Milwaukee speech, which was just a knockout, I did stay tuned to see what MSNBC had to say. You know, their big complaint was he wasn't in Milwaukee. He was 40 miles north in St. Cloud. When that's your biggest complaint, it was a knockout speech.
Do you still think Trump's going to win?
I do.
And
I mean, I've thought basically from the beginning, 90% chance of winning the nomination, 60% chance of winning the presidency.
And now, today?
Still, more likely than not.
And if he
I think the polls will change. I think as people see him more, and I think there's going to be a pushback on the media. I do think the media is absolutely hysterical, and that can depress the vote. But this is an important vote. It's a presidential election. Hillary is corrupt. She's done this whole pay-for-play business. She's a horrible speaker. We do have debates coming, and I think when it comes to it, look, the complaints with Trump are stylistic. The complaints with her are a corrupt liar who's going to continue business as usual and keep sending jobs abroad. And in the end, I still think Trump is more likely than now. 40% chance of Hillary winning is still pretty high.
Do you think she's ill?
I think Trump should insist that one of the debates be 90 minutes, no commercials.
What does that have to do with
I don't think
anything?
she could make it.
Yeah.
I don't think she could do it.
You think he should release his tax returns?
No. No, and as you know, I mean, neither of these are constitutional requirements yet. And still, I mean, at least since Eisenhower, presidents have been releasing their health records.
Tax returns.
Tax
returns.
No,
since
that started with Nixon. Okay, Eisenhower was way before Nixon.
Okay, yeah.
And it may have gone back before Eisenhower. I do think health is a lot more important. Look, we know Trump is a wealthy man. We probably didn't pay much in taxes because his business is real estate, and we have a public policy to encourage real estate. The charities, one thing I would like to mention, the way your profession keeps going after Trump on his charitable donations. That's because the media only counts charitable donations that you can get a deduction on. Well, I don't think Trump needs deductions. We know that he has written massive checks that don't count as charities.
Last question. If he does not win and starts a new media organization, will you go work for him?
That would be great. It'll be too late, but sure.
You will.
It would be the only one that would be worth paying. No, I think I'm just going to write mysteries. The country will be over.
Mysteries? Is that what In Trump We Trust is?
No.
Okay.
But it's as exciting. Mention how fun it is. Isn't it fun?
It is an Ann Coulter book. We always look forward to hearing what you have to say. You can follow Yahoo News and me, Michael Isikoff, on Twitter and use Yahoo News, hashtag Yahoo News, to let us know what you think about everything you just heard.